All right, so let's go to Bible prophecy. And where is the Ukraine identified in the pages of the Bible? Now, as I mentioned, if you haven't seen my video, Russia in Prophecy, we show you that Russia is Ishmael in the biblical prophecies. And we show you that the Midianites and the Ishmaelites in the Bible had an alliance, and they created an empire, which secular history shows they are called the Mitanni Empire. And this Mitanni Empire, after they lost all their power, went up through the Black and the Caspian Sea and settled into southern Russia. And then they became known as the Kiev Rus people. And the Kiev Rus people, there were pretty much three groups of people in the Kiev Rus Empire. We had the Byelorussians, the Little Russians, and the Byelorussians, the Little Russians, and the Great Russians. The Great Russians were known as the Eastern Slavs, and they migrated up into what is known as Russia. And then we had the Byelorussians. Then we have the Little Russians that became the Ukrainians today. And these Little Russians we have identified in Bible prophecy as Midian, the peoples of Midian. And I put the link of the booklet, Ukraine and Bible Prophecy, we have right here. I put the link up there if you want to take a look at it. And we show you in history that Midian is the Ukrainian people today. And I put up other links there of Russia in prophecy, Germany in prophecy, and China in prophecy, all there in the chat room if you want to download them free of charge. And you can take a look at them and find out where China is identified in the Bible, which we have identified China as Kittim, the peoples of Kittim, and Gog of the land of Magog in Ezekiel, the 38th chapter. We have identified Russia as Ishmael. They were part of that Mitanni Empire, and which became the Kiev Rus, and then the Eastern Slavs of the Kiev Rus we have identified as Ishmael, which moved up into Russia and received all the blessings that God promised Ishmael. The Little Russians, they became the Ukrainians, and these Little Russians we have identified as Midian of the Bible. And Germany in prophecy, we have identified Germany as Asher in Bible prophecy. The peoples of Asher, when the Assyrian Empire deteriorated, they scattered and fled, went up through the Black and the Caspian Sea, and they migrated into Western Europe. The Assyriani, the Halmani, the Chadi and these are the tribes of Assyria, moved into what we know today as Germany. And so the Germans are the end-time Assyrians in Bible prophecy. So that's pretty much just a summary of what these books will show you and prove to you, that all these nations can be identified in the pages of the Bible. And today we know that the Ukrainian peoples are the peoples of Midian. And there is a prophecy about Midian in this end time because they are part of the Abrahamic family. They are not the birthright seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but they are part of the Abrahamic family. Abraham had other wives and concubines, and of course, move them, you can read in the book of Genesis, move these people to the east of Palestine, what we know as Palestine today, and that is where we find the peoples of Ishmael, the peoples of Midian, that form the Mitanni Empire, and then eventually moved north into Russia and the Ukraine today. Now, there was a prophecy in Numbers, the 24th chapter. And in Numbers 24, verse 14, these prophecies are for the latter days. And then it says here in verse 21, it says, and he looked unto the Kenites. Now, who are the Kenites? When you read Judges, the first chapter, verse 16, Numbers 10, verse 29, we see that the Kenites are the Midianites, the peoples of Midian. And it says, he looked upon the Kenites and took up this parable and said, strong is thy dwelling place, and thou puttest thy nest in a rock, which is meaning it's a secure place to live, which the Ukraine is. And we show you that in that booklet. But then it goes on to say this, nevertheless, the Kenite shall be wasted. meaning the Ukraine. This is in the latter days. Where do we find Midian in the latter days? In the Ukraine. It shall be wasted. Others say it shall be burned, consumed, incinerated, talking about the fires of war. And it says that the Midianites, the Ukraine, will be wasted. And then notice it says, until Asher shall carry thee away captive. Who is Asher? Germany. So it's saying here that it's going to be in warfare until Asher carries you away. That hasn't happened yet. Now, who is Asher in this end time? Germany. And it's talking about Asher carrying them away into captivity. Obviously, now we show you in the booklet Germany and Prophecy that Assyria is going to form what the Bible calls the beast of prophecy, that 10-nation combine, possibly called the United States of Europe. When NATO breaks apart, when the EU breaks apart, then comes the seventh and final head of that beast of prophecy. And it's going to be headed by Germany, Assyria. And we see prophecies, biblical prophecies about Assyria taking people into captivity. And which I'll show you in a minute. But it says, nevertheless, the Kenites shall be wasted until Asher shall carry thee away captive. Now, other translations say, how long will it take until Asher takes you hostage? That's from the International Standard Version, implying that the Ukraine will be so weak and feeble that it will take no time at all for Germany to take over that country. So what we're seeing right now is the Ukraine in trouble. The Ukraine has been at war since 2014, since the Russians took over Crimea, and it's not going to stop. It says that the Ukraine is going to be wasted, burned in the fires of war until Asher carry thee away, and that hasn't happened yet. So what's going on with the Ukraine is going to continue to go on until the beast is going to form, the beast rises and takes the Ukraine away. And the Ukraine at that time is going to be so weak, so feeble, that Germany is going to have no problem taking it over and putting these people in slavery and captivity. So there is that prophecy about the Ukraine. This war that we're seeing is going to continue until the beast is going to take the Ukraine away. What you're witnessing right now is pretty much the end of the nation of the end of the nation of the Ukraine as we know it. And this is going to continue until the beast takes the Ukraine away. Now, notice what it says here in Habakkuk, the first chapter. Here we see this is an end time prophecy. And God says this in Habakkuk 1, verse 6. It says, for lo, I will raise up the Chaldeans, that's the Babylonians. And of course, we know that the beast power at the end time, and this is an end time prophecy, we know that the beast at the end time is called Babylon. I will raise up the Chaldeans, that bitter and hasty nation, which shall march through the breadth of the land to possess the dwelling places that are not there. So they're going to attack other nations, and they're going to occupy them, and of course put them into slavery and captivity. They are a terrible and dreadful. Their judgment and their dignity shall proceed of themselves. Their horses are swifter than leopards, and are more fierce than the evening wolves. And their horsemen shall spread themselves, and their horsemen shall come from far. They shall fly as the eagle that hasteth to eat. So God saying here, this is a fierce army, swift, hungry to take over other nations and to control them. And then it says in verse 9, and they shall come all for violence. So this is what they're doing. It's all for violence. Their faces shall sup up as the east wind, and they shall gather the captivity as the sand. So notice they are gathering up the captivity. They're gathering up captives. They're taking over their nations, gathering up their captives, and of course, enslaving them. And then it says, verse 10, and they shall scoff at the kings, and the princes shall be a scorn unto them. And they shall deride every stronghold, for they shall heap dust and take it. So they're going to just go in and take over nations. And this is talking about the same prophecy of Assyria in Isaiah, the 10th chapter. Isaiah 10. Go there right quickly. Isaiah 10. I didn't have it marked in my Bible, so excuse me for turning these pages here. Isaiah 10, verse 5, it talks about the Assyrian. O Assyrian, the rod of mine anger, and the staff in their hand is mine indignation. God says, I will send him against an hypocritical nation, talking about Israel, and against the people of my wrath, that's Israel. Notice, I will give him charge to take the spoil, to take the prey, and to tread them down like mire in the streets. Now notice verse 7. It says, howbeit, he meaneth not so, neither doth his heart think so, but it is in his heart to destroy and to cut off nations, not a few. So it's in his heart to, in his heart, wants to conquer these nations. He thinks he can't do it, but he's going to do it anyways, and he will do it. He will succeed, and it says he's going to destroy and cut off nations, not a few. So he's going to cut off nations, and he's going to cut off nations, and one of those nations, of course, is Midian, as we read in Numbers, the 24th chapter, verse 21, that he's going to take the Ukraine, the Midianites, captive. And it's going to be easy for him because, as it says, the Ukraine is going to be wasted. It's going to continue in this warfare until the beast takes him captive in the end time, which is now. Notice Habakkuk. We go back to Habakkuk, the 3rd chapter, verse 7. It says this. Here it's talking about the second coming of Christ, and it says, I saw the tents of Cushan in affliction, and the curtains of the land of Midian did tremble. So here we see Midian, the tents of Cushan, which means Midian, the tents of Cushan in affliction. And of course, and it says the curtains of the land of Midian did tremble. So here we see, in the end time, when Christ comes back, the Midianites being afflicted, they are in slavery and captivity, which the beast power puts them in. And they are in affliction, and they did tremble. But of course, Jesus Christ of Nazareth is coming back, and he's going to stop all the slavery, the captivity that the beast power has put these nations into. And of course, Midian is part of the Abrahamic family, and of course is going to save them from the beast power. So here we see the Midianites in slavery and captivity.